Welcome back to Owl Dragon Adventures. I'm Scott Kegler.
And I'm Rob McPherson.
And this is our review of Three Ring Circus. So this is Three Ring Circus by Devir. This game was designed by, I'm going to have to check here because I'll say it wrong otherwise, Fabio Lopiano and Remo Conzadori. Hopefully I got that right. This just came out, I believe, at Gen Con this year. So middle of this year for 2023. And this game is based on the smaller circuses that were kind of following the trail blazed by Barnum, with the Barnum and Bailey Circus through the Northeast. And to just, I think, as far as Chicago it goes. Indianapolis. And Chicago. And you are going around and trying to build up your own circus and entertain the audiences of the main cities and the surrounding cities and small towns in that area. And that's effectively how the theme of the game works. You'll be going around earning victory points by those performances, the type of acts that you bring around. Some towns are going to have preferences throughout the board of types of acts they like to see, whether it's jugglers or animal acts or kind of specialists.
Yeah, so it's a hand management tableau building game where you're going to, so you start off with a few cards that have the dollar bills on the back, and this is how you get paid for your acts too, is with these cards. And they've got a dollar value up in the top left, but they also can act as a performer too, like this one's a performing dog. And you can put them down in your tableau by paying their cost. So that would be $2, and so you have to pay a minimum of that cost. So I would pay the $3 here to put that down. And then the tableau is in 3 lines here. And really the only difference between the lines is you perform with all 3 lines or 3 rings of your circus. Mm-hmm. The only real difference is the way they relate to each other. So you can see like this dog gets a performance bonus plus a performance bonus per, I don't remember, acrobat? Yeah, the purple flag is the acrobat. Per acrobat that you have to the right of him along that single line. Mm-hmm. And so it's a bit of a puzzle game in terms of making sure you're placing the cards down, your performers down in a way that they're going to add to each other's bonuses most effectively.
Yeah, they usually interact either to the left or the right of the card. They're in that row,
right?
And that's how you determine your the strength of the of the act for that particular city or small city.
Yeah. So in the smaller towns that you go around and perform, which are the little tiny towns along here, you're going to get rewarded by these dollars that you'll pick up, which will be those basic performers. In the middle ground, the medium cities, so you've got like Baltimore and Pittsburgh, those you can get either victory points for them, or you can get these specialist performers, which are going to be more powerful for you for victory points in the end game. Mm-hmm. And then you can perform in the major cities, which is where you really get your victory point farming done. There's a significant amount. And if you have just the right array, like down here in Washington, D.C. this time, and these are all modular, which I love, if you've got a strongman, I don't know if that's the category, I apologize, I can't remember them all. But if you've got the green flag and then
an animal act after, or sorry, an acrobat first.
Yep.
Then your main act
which is a fire breather. There it is. And then you finish off with an animal act. You'll get the most amount of victory points for it. So it's getting those combos right before you go perform in those cities, because as Scott said, they have their preferences.
Right, so essentially you do small towns, which are a cash grab, and those get filled up with which are one of my favorite components in the game.
Yeah.
These adorable little circus tents, and that's how you mark off on the board where you have entertained.
Yep.
And those are going to start to fill up. So another town or a small town that's already had a circus you don't go back to, because you basically
you've entertained them already.
That's all the money they had to give.
Yeah.
So the money kind of dries up very quickly in the game.
Yeah.
And then essentially trying to move on to as Rob was saying, the smaller cities, which is where you're going to get either a quick victory point grab or more cards.
Yeah, and you can perform there multiple times.
Correct. Because there's also a bit of area control as well at the end of the game, or as
the game goes.
As the game goes,
as Barnum comes around. Yeah.
Because when Barnum arrives, you then look who has done the most entertaining in that region.
So like in a 2-player game, we've got these 3 regions here, the region around Washington, D.C., around New York, and in Boston. And then the game opens up more as you add more players, and you add the Indianapolis region and the Chicago region as well, which I like. I like that they just make the map bigger for more players.
Right.
I'm not quite sold on the way they cover these up. They're a little clunky.
Yeah.
Minor little thing.
So that's essentially the gameplay, though. You go around as Barnum makes his way from Boston back to New York through the map, and once that has finished, you look to see who has the highest victory point, and that's how you win the game.
Yep.
It plays...
It's played over a series of rounds.
Yeah. It goes very fast at higher play counts. We found 3 as kind of the sweet spot with it for gameplay. 4, I felt rushed.
Yeah, so we played it 3 twice, I think, and we were really liking it. And then we threw a 4th player in one time, and we still loved the game. Don't get me wrong, but all of a sudden we looked down, and we're like, "Oh my god, we have 2 turns left! Like not even 2 rounds."
And
turns.
I felt too crowded out too fast, and in a game that like is already pretty tight.
Yeah,
like I don't know how I felt about that.
Yep.
But otherwise, I love the gameplay. It doesn't feel like all the elements of it aren't overly thematic. There are parts I do like. I like putting together your act, but like the different characters don't do anything specifically to what they are.
Yeah,
they're just a tableau.
Yeah, I think it's visually thematic more than mechanical.
Yeah, there's the mechanics other than like setting up the area control of like entertaining and running your business is kind of fun. But that's essentially the gameplay. For gameplay though, I'm pretty high on it. I enjoyed it. It's I like the experience of it. I like the chase of everyone trying to like. I like area control.
Yeah.
So it starts to feel it's wargamey a little bit. Even
Yeah,
though
it's,
you're
it's
just
a unique warrior control. It's a unique area control because you can't kick anybody out.
Right.
You can beat them to the punch, but once they're there, they've performed their circus, and that's it.
Yeah, and then it's more like what can I get in on, and that's some of the strategy too is deciding, like when you get to the small cities, it's determining which because you might have the pedestal power here to do one or the other, but you might choose something knowing that you want to make sure you have Baltimore closed out for some reason.
Yeah,
because there's also end game conditions as well. These little popcorn cards here.
Yep. You
collect those as well through the course of the game that modify your end score.
Yeah. So like in this case, for every green specialist performer you have that are not the same one, you get if you have 2 of them, you get 5. If you have 3 of them, you get 7. If you have 4 of them, you get so standard end game victory condition type things.
Yeah, I mean it does a lot of things just well in this space. Like nothing that was like I guess really profound with it.
Yeah, but I think it falls into that niche that we really enjoy, which is it mashed up a series of really good mechanics in a really strong way. Like nothing felt out of place in terms of the mechanics they threw in.
Right, and sticks to like an hour 15, hour and a half long play. Like it doesn't play overly long. The ending is always chasing you. Like there's like you can't prolong this game.
No.
It's almost impossible.
There's like 2 cards in there that let you not let Barnum advance, but that's it.
That's one last gameplay I want to talk about is like the movement is really interesting because the more circuses that are out, the faster you can move. Because if there are spaces that have circus tents, you don't count them in movement. So in the early game, you're counting every town when you're looking at your movement to get across the board.
Yep.
Late game, it's like, and Barnum just skips over towns where there was already circuses.
Yeah, like I've gotten from St. Louis all the way back to Boston in a single move because there was
everything's full.
Yeah, I was like 2 movement to get there.
So that I really like.
Yeah.
So
nothing feels tedious because of it.
So accessibility on this game is
there's a lot here.
It's a lot too. Like this is not a gateway game by any stretch. I think this is something when somebody's getting comfortable, and not to say it's a heavy game.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's no Mind Clash, but it's it's a heavier, it's a medium heavy game. Like, it's got some meat to it.
I think tableaus are not always intuitive to newer gamers, and I really like a lot of Devir games. Their rulebooks sometimes can be
because they're almost always produced and designed overseas and then translated, and the translators they hire are not always the greatest.
Yeah, it's not always perfect. I do appreciate that we got components. I don't always get components in my Devir rulebooks. Looking at you, Red Cathedral. And so Yeah, this one is one of the better rule books, I would say. But there's a lot here to talk about strategy wise for a new player.
Yeah.
They're gonna ask you a lot of questions if they don't play a lot of games.
Yeah.
But if you have a medium to heavy table, you'll crack this no problem.
Sure. Yep.
Design. I think the game's really pretty.
It is a little beige.
It is very beige. But it's what I like is it has a pretty solid marriage of art and graphic design, because there's a lot of graphic design here. I don't know how well you can see it, but it is almost busy. I wouldn't quite call it busy, but it's definitely like that really good marriage of both those things. So I can tell what it's supposed to be doing, but I can know exactly
all of the
where I can go.
gameplay components feel elevated from the map behind it, if that makes sense. No, I think that, so as we said before, like, this is definitely one of those games that I think they could have tossed this on any theme onto this, almost any theme, and it would have been fine. But because they went with the circus theme, they leaned into it in a really strong way, and everything visually feels thematic. Like, nothing feels like it's a skin. It really feels well developed from a design aspect from top to bottom.
Where the business could have literally been anything.
Right, yeah.
You'd be running any business, and just like this would be the mechanics. Yep. But I do like the art choices
Real
here.
estate Rockefeller fellow when you were out of town.
Right, like whatever. But I like the art. The iconography is pretty easy to follow.
Yep.
So I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I've said this a lot, which is at first you look at the icons, you're like, what? And then you look it up and you see what it is. You're like, oh no, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, and it doesn't. And it's not much of a table hog. It doesn't take up too much space. If you had because most people are holding all their hand of cards, they have the whole game.
Yeah, and
like
then each
you
player
could, if you
gets
had to, like it's play 4 players on a pretty like a dining room table. Like it doesn't eat up a lot of room.
Yeah. There's not like sometimes when we have games out on the table for review, you'll see we'll have things hidden off to the sides. There's the empty box. That's pretty much it.
So quality, it's a Devir game, so they get you a lot in this box of good components. It's
good quality cards. They're not the thickest of card stocks, but they're a solid card stock that's got like the the linen texture.
We'll see where everything lands this year for 2023 games, but this might be my favorite component of the year.
Yeah, I love this
the little circus tents.
There's just something about
adorable.
Putting
and I love that they made them so like lows, where like you're not toppling a bunch of little tents. You could have higher little tents, but these are these nice little discs basically.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know why I'm going to say this because we're going to do it now, but I don't think we've ever knocked the map.
They settle well on the board.
Yeah.
So I like that. I mean, as you said, the cards are the kind of the meat of the game.
Yep.
Everything's it's Devir. Their games are always well put together.
Agreed.
So finally is value. The game retails at I believe $40. $39.99. And I've seen it online all over the place for less than that right now, like $32, $35. But yeah, retail for $40. We've already played it a few times now, a bunch of times actually.
Yeah, this one's hit our table a lot.
Yeah, and it's fun. So I mean, and for a game that plays an hour and a half at 3 players, maybe closer to hour 45 at 4, maybe 2, depending how much AP.
No, because remember it filled up so quickly.
Yeah.
We felt that. I think the 3-player game played almost exactly the same as the 4-player game.
Okay, maybe we could breathe more.
Yeah.
In the 3-player game.
Yeah, we had time for AP in the 3-player.
So even if you
in the 4th player,
but really, even if you only played it once, you're basically that's like
$20 an hour.
Yeah, not even like it's like it's
a good value. It's a good enough value that as Scott said the price, because I had kind of forgotten about the price. I'm like, maybe that's what I'm going to get in the next hour.
Yeah. So it's solid for the value. I mean, if it's you're looking for a crunchier game for your table, this one it's one of their kind of smaller box games, so it's also not going to eat up a lot of shelf space.
Devir is really good at packing a lot into a little.
Almost too much sometimes, which we'll talk about in another video coming up soon. Sometimes they overdo it, but it's snug. It all fits in there.
Yep.
So for Ring Circus, I am coming in at 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this one. It's never been if anybody wants to table this one, I'm more than happy to do so. Again, I only have this couple small things there. The 4-player game, that's probably what keeps it down from it going any higher, because I really like this one. As the 4-player game, I didn't enjoy that as much.
Yeah, I'm going back and forth in my head right now. because I haven't gotten to play it solo, and it does feel like one I might enjoy solo. But I think I'm at a 9 out of 10 out of this one. Yeah. I was thinking earlier that I was going to be closer to an 8.5, but as we talk through it, I kind of want to set it up and play right after we finish filming this, and that tells me a lot about the game. Right. And I'm not as big into area control as Scott is. Like, I love area control.
And that's a minor part of the game. Yeah.
It's true, and it's a unique.
You
type
like it
because
you can't get wiped out of this game.
It's not a take that.
You kind of anchor into an area.
Yeah, if I planned well, then that was my plan, and it won.
What I like
I've never won this game.
And what I like about the area control in this one too is that you can kind of like really plan ahead because you know where he's going.
Yeah.
So you can be like, as people are like, oh, they're going to jump in for the early games.
Sean
you can be
did
like,
a great job at that the last time we played. We all of a sudden looked at, I think it was the New York area, because it looks like it's early in his route, but it's really, he doesn't hit there until almost the end. And we got back there, and Sean had like 5 pieces there. We were like, oh.
Yeah. No, it's a solid game. Yeah. So that is for Ring Circus. If you have any questions, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Anything we can go over on the game, we're happy to respond.
Absolutely.
Rob's always on top of that. Sometimes I am. I don't know. Mostly Rob.
Yeah, TikTok, it's good.
Right. So that is our review of the game. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more content like this, go ahead and like and subscribe. Otherwise, we wish you good luck with all of your future board game adventures.
And thank you for joining us on ours.